the ability to be able to notice what's coming up from our subconscious and actually to be able to hold space for it enough that we don't attach to it and we don't believe it, and to be able to release the voice of judgment around it. Because when we release the voice of judgment, suddenly it's just a thing, it's just an option that's been shown to us. It's like, oh, here we are, my subconscious mind trying to help me out. Here we are, like, you could believe this. Is this useful to you? And actually, when we learn how to release the voice of the judger, then we can simply look at it and go, oh no, thanks. That's not useful to me, actually. That's not useful to me. You can let that go now. Hello, it's me, Jo Norton. Yes, I am talking to you from the bathtub, my favourite place to be, where I am most in flow. So why not hop in and join me? The water's warm, the bubbles are high, and we are tapping in to mind, body, and soul. Oh, hang on, just a quick caution. There's likely to be swearing. That's just what happens when I'm excited and in the flow. So if you've got sensitive ears, you might want to scroll on by. See you in the tub. Tub Talks episode 2, here we are. I am so excited and I'm so in the flow right now because I have received so many wonderful, wonderful messages of support for Tub Talks episode 1, where we were talking about creating self-connection through being. People already having insights and shifts just simply through listening to 20 minutes is a really fucking powerful thing. And so all of that helps me to be even more in the flow. This flow, this inspiration really is an inside job for me. It's something that I connect with inside. It's certainly not something I need any external validation on. But having that collective inspiration, having that wonderful feedback definitely helps to spark this beautiful inside feeling of flow, of ease. And then the downloads, the intuitive downloads tend to come through much more freely and much more easily. So thank you so much for that. Today, I'm going to dive right in because the thing that's been flowing through me really strongly is wanting to share and talk about mind, body, and soul, which is exactly what we're doing here, right? Tub Talks is all about tapping into mind, body, and soul. And so as we step forwards, I want us to really feel into what I mean, what you mean when we think about those terms, mind, body, and soul. And you might straight away kind of think, well, hang on, Jo, like, I know what mind, body, and soul are. I don't need anyone to explain it to me. And you absolutely don't, right? But what we also know to be true is that the more deeply we can understand ourselves, all the parts of ourselves, the more we can really connect with ourselves, the more we can step forward in a way that feels good and aligned to us. Simply by knowing ourselves to whatever degree we can ever possibly know ourselves. And so even if what I share today has just one little spark of insight, or reminds you of something, or frames it in a slightly different way that can allow you to have a useful perspective, then that's what this is all about. So, mind, body, and soul. I'm simply going to describe it from my perspective. You might have different ways of describing it, and that's totally okay. I'm going to start by talking about the body. The body, this physical thing that often we believe is me, is us, is you, right? This body, this is me, right? And I know for most of my life, I went through most of my life just simply believing that this is me. When I describe myself, when I think of myself, I see in my mind and I think of this physical body being me. And I'm certainly not going to tell you that it's not you. It is a big part of the you that is here right now. But leaning into other concepts, other perspectives, a shifted awareness around that, it certainly has proved really useful for me in stepping forwards. So this physical body where I then experience the vibrations and sensations of feelings, whether they be internal vibrations and sensations of feelings or whether they're external, me touching my own skin, or, even some pain on my skin. If I touched myself with a pin or something, I feel the physical vibration, the physical sensation of that in the body. And the way I like to think about the body is like the actual hardware of a physical computer or phone. Let's talk about it in relation to phone. We all have phones, right? So the body is the actual physical hardware, the phone itself, the screen. Nowadays, we don't have actual like punchy numbers, do we, that we punch in, but all of the kind of gubbins, all of the stuff that makes up the hardware of that phone is the physical body. And of course, what we recognize to be true is that without something else, that physical phone or computer just doesn't really work, right? Just that physical thing on its own doesn't actually work. It can't really do anything just physically on its own. And so what it needs to make it work is a few other things. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is mind. Mind. And the mind is the brain, which is a part of the body, a physical part of the body. I bet you're imagining it now as I'm saying the word. You can see all those funny little folds, right? The brain is part of the physical body, and the mind is the brain in motion. The mind is the brain in motion. So if we think about it in relation to the phone or the computer, with the body being the hardware, the mind is like the software that's on that computer or the software that's on that phone. And of course, without that software, the phone itself isn't much use. Without the software of mind, the body itself isn't necessarily much use. And the mind itself is where we experience life through thought. The mind basically shows itself to us through lots of thoughts that run through it. And we can really come to a place or get stuck almost in a place where we believe that we are those thoughts that actually are simply coming from the mind. We believe that I am those thoughts. And we believe those thoughts to be us. We believe the mind to be us. And so when we believe that, we then attach to those thoughts and we believe those thoughts and they become truth for us. And so if we kind of think of splitting the mind off into a couple of parts, it can be really useful. And so we're going to talk about the mind in terms of the subconscious or unconscious mind. And for now, I'm going to just use those terms interchangeably. So let's just refer to it as the subconscious mind, sub being below conscious, and then the conscious mind. And human beings are, as far as we're aware, the only species that actually have the conscious part of the mind, have that metacognition of being able to look at our own minds and being able to judge it. Because the subconscious mind is like the data on our computer, right? Or on our phone. But the subconscious mind is just the pure data. So say it was on a computer and say it was a spreadsheet. I love a spreadsheet, particularly like putting loads of fun colors on a spreadsheet. Yeah, I am that sad. But if we imagine a spreadsheet with all of its data on it, the actual data itself, like all the numbers on the spreadsheet, is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the storehouse for everything. It's not actually the mind that's like thinking anything through. It's not trying to work anything out. It just houses everything. And if we have programmed something into it through the conscious mind, then it just sits there. Like if I have decided, to put in the number 3 into a spreadsheet, then once it's put into the spreadsheet as a 3, then that is what it lives by. That number 3 is just there, and it believes the number 3, and it attaches to the number 3, and it says number 3 is how it is. That's what happens in the subconscious mind. And then we have the conscious mind. We have the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is like that little notification that comes up on the spreadsheet that says something like, oh, there's an inconsistent formula here, right? Like it's noticing everything that's in the data, everything that's in the subconscious. It's noticing all those beliefs that the subconscious is holding. And when they come up to the surface, or even sometimes when they're just bubbling below, it is doing the judging, it's doing the analyzing, it is trying to make it logical, it's trying to rationalize, it's trying to say, oh, actually, this doesn't make sense, or this should go here, or there's something wrong with this. And often that's what can happen in the mind, is the conscious part of our mind, as beautiful as it is, the conscious part of our mind sometimes can get into that voice of being the judger. And so from our subconscious, something can pop up, a belief, a memory, a thought, and then the conscious mind can come in and judge it and say that there's something wrong. Tell us there's something wrong. Tell us that there's a problem in some way. Tell us that, that must mean that I'm not good enough. How many times have you heard that from your mind? I'm going to guess a few. Even if not in those exact words, the energy of that statement is something that as human beings, all of us in one way or another have experienced and often still do experience. But that's simply a program that's coming from the subconscious mind. It's something that's programmed in the subconscious mind, that's been conditioned in, often through childhood experiences and things that happened, at a very early age. And then that's shown to us that I'm not good enough belief. And actually, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. That might sound crazy for me to say, but in and of itself, the belief I'm not good enough is actually okay until we allow the conscious mind to judge it, to believe it, to attach to it, to say, oh no, oh my gosh, and it's true, I'm not good enough, or, oh, fucking hell, I thought this belief about not being good enough had been deleted by now, oh gosh, and making ourselves not good enough all over again simply by judging. One of the key things that I teach people that I work with, and I do for myself every single day, is the ability to be able to notice what's coming up from our subconscious and actually to be able to hold space for it enough that we don't attach to it and we don't believe it, and to be able to release the voice of judgment around it. Because when we release the voice of judgment, suddenly it's just a thing. It's just an option that's been shown to us. It's like, oh, here we are. My subconscious mind trying to help me out. Here we are. Like, you could believe this. Is this useful to you? And actually, when we learn how to release the voice of the judger, then we can simply look at it and go, oh no, thanks. That's not useful to me, actually. That's not useful to me. You can let that go now. So in terms of our phone or our computer, just to recap, we've got the actual physical body, which is like the physical hardware phone itself, right? The thing I can hold in my hand, the thing that doesn't actually work in any way without something else. Then we've got the mind being the software on it, the software of the kind of programs that run on it. And then specifically, if we split that out even further, we've got the subconscious or the unconscious being the actual data that doesn't judge itself. It's just, it is what it is. It's been programmed in and it just sits there and it shows itself to us when it thinks it's useful. And then we've got the conscious mind, which is like those clever little programs that run on your phone or your computer that actually are trying to analyze and judge what's going on, right? And so we kind of feel like, well, that's it, Joe, right? That's there. Here I am, mind and body. But of course, there's something else. There is something else. Something that's actually truer, wiser, deeper, higher in some ways, more limitless, more, I'm going to say constant than all of that. Something that so far in this description we're missing, that sometimes we can miss in so many ways when we're just moving forwards, having the human experience. And that is the way that all of that is powered. The way all of it's powered. Because the phone, the physical phone, plus the programs on it will be nothing unless we have the electricity that powers it all. The electricity that we plug our computer into, or we plug our phone into to recharge the battery, is what's giving all of it life. And that is how I would describe the soul. Mind, body, soul. The soul is the electricity. The soul is the life bringer, the energy, the source energy, the higher self, consciousness, conscious awareness, the divine, or even God. That beautiful life force that runs through all of us, that actually powers all of us, that sometimes when we're just tapping away on the phone or on the computer, we're just stepping forward in life with this human experience, we can forget that thing that is powering us. The part that I fundamentally believe truly is who I am. The part, the life that actually, when we think about it in terms of electricity, never dies. It's never really born. It never goes anywhere. It's always flowing through. And so in terms of this physical mind and body, at the moment, it is the life force that flows through it, that powers it. But even when this physical mind and body is no longer here, or before this physical mind and body was here, that electricity, that energy, that soul, that life force, that source was still here and will remain here. Just flowing, just flowing. And also when we think about it even more deeply, or feel into it even more deeply, we recognize that that electricity that runs through me, that source energy, that consciousness that runs through me is exactly the same that runs through you and all of us. It is the connection between all of us. And the thing I know to be true more and more as I've lent into the intuitive gifts that bubble up in me, that flow through me, and that also flow through you, even if you're not quite aware of them right now or yet, the more I recognize that this consciousness that flows through me, even this soul that flows through me, that I call my soul, actually is a collective consciousness. And often I can receive what I'll refer to as downloads in terms of images or in terms of words, or just kind of sensing, and then I kind of translate the words from my now physical mind and body, just looking at it all, and this deep inner knowing inside, I can translate those things. And I recognize that when I actually say them out loud, without questioning them, just allowing them to flow, I am sharing something that actually this physical mind and body, Joe's mind and body, has never learned. That Joe herself doesn't actually know from a mind perspective, from this I know egoic mind. I am sharing something that has been tapped into from collective consciousness. And it's the most beautiful, like freeing, open, expansive experience to allow that to flow through. But that comes through deeply connecting and tapping into that source energy, that electricity, through reconnecting with it. Because one of the things I haven't said yet about the mind and about the body is that the mind and the body is also what we can refer to as our ego, our identity, our personality. And I don't say ego from the place that a lot of people use the term ego, you know, in the kind of almost, I feel like in the corporate world, it's like this, you know, oh, she's got a big ego, he's got a big ego. And I don't necessarily mean it in that way. I'm not meaning it as a derogatory term at all. Our ego is a beautiful thing. Our ego is simply my conditioned sense of self, who I think I am, who I believe I am. My ego, it comes from the word I am this, I am that, I am this physical body, this mind, that's who I am. And I'm trying to protect that. The ego is trying to protect that at all costs. The ego is trying to keep me from really remembering who I truly am, this soul, this source energy, not to try and harm me, but the opposite, because it thinks it can keep me safe by saying, I am separate to you. Because just imagine if we were all actually really knew the truth, and we were just knew that we were all deeply connected, and that I was you and you were me, and that lion over there was also me and I was him. And, you know, the ego says, well, if we get too close, then it's going to be dangerous. And so the ego is a beautiful thing, just trying to protect us and keep us safe in this physical body and this mind. But the ego is something that also can, in its conditioning, particularly with the judgment of the conscious mind, then moving things and programming things in the subconscious mind, it can be running programs that don't serve us. That's why a lot of the work I do using NLP, using hypnotherapy, is about being able to directly bypass the conscious mind in order to talk to the subconscious mind, in order to have conversations with the subconscious mind, so we can really notice what's going on there, so we can release that data, those programs and those patterns, and reprogram in a way that really truly serves us, from not necessarily a conscious mind place, but from a place of consciousness itself. Such a powerful thing to be able to do, because then the data is different, right? The data actually, you know, it used to be a 3 that didn't serve us, that number in the spreadsheet, and actually right now it's a 7 that's really useful. The 7 is going to allow us to be able to step forward. That new belief, or that recrafted belief, is actually the one that's going to allow us to step forward in a really powerful way. But all of this is so much more powerful, is so much more wonderful, is so much more fucking beautiful and magical when we truly remember who we are. Not simply this egoic mind and body, which is a bloody beautiful, beautiful part of us, but is not everything. It's not all of us. But we also remember that the truth of who we are is that electricity that flows through me and that flows through you. Because when we connect there, when we see that our phone or our computer has been trying to run from the electricity just stored in the battery, and then it suddenly brings up this notification saying, plug the fuck in. Plug in. It is reminding us that we are not simply the hardware and software of ourselves. It's a beautiful part of us, but it's not all. It's reminding us to plug in to ourselves, our higher self, our soul, to reconnect on a level that then allows more intuitive guidance, wisdom, freedom to flow through. It's exactly why one of the main things that I teach my clients is what I call my self-freedom formula. It's doing exactly that. It is shifting the awareness in order to become the awareness, consciousness, soul, and being able to then from that perspective notice the mind and body and what it's bringing us and what it's showing us, so that we can moment by moment release the judgment first of everything it's bringing us. And through releasing the judgment, what ends up happening is that the things we are judging naturally start to come to the surface and release themselves from us. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the power of it is that without even really recognizing it necessarily, what we're fundamentally doing is reconnecting to our true selves, reconnecting to ourselves as the soul. And from that place, crafting this wonderful mind and this beautiful body a lot more on purpose from a wide awake place, so that mind, body, and soul can align. So I'd invite you right now just to take a moment to start that process. And it starts by noticing, to start to notice the mind, to notice the voices that it brings, the thoughts that it brings, to recognize you're not those thoughts. You're not even the mind thinking those thoughts. You are the observer of the mind thinking those thoughts. And then to notice the body, to notice the vibrations and sensations it brings and the emotion labels the mind puts on that. And to notice that those vibrations and sensations are beautiful signposts, but they're not who you are fundamentally. To notice that you're not only those feelings, but you're not even the body that's feeling those feelings. You're the observer of the body that's feeling those feelings. And then from that place, to plug the fuck in, even if just for a split second. That's the being energy that we were talking about in episode 1. To plug in to that being energy, to that consciousness, to that electricity. And just for a moment, like bask in the fucking deliciousness of that. I'm so happy you joined me for a spiritual soaking. I don't know about you, but I am pruning up quite nicely here, so it's probably time to hop out. Make sure to hit the likes and subscribes and all that jazz, and I'll see you again soon for our next Tub Talks.